Hi everyone, my name's Braydon. I'm a newer personal trainer here. I'm from Vancouver Island. I spent probably about 13 years out that way, just playing football, stuff like that. Got the job as a personal trainer because I never understood the importance of resistance and just training as an athlete in general, let alone the benefits in life that it gave me. And I ended up actually crushing 2 discs in my lower back. So I've gone to make it my mission to share my passion for just living a healthy life. Not looking for bodybuilders or nothing like that, just living a pain-free life. So we're going to go over resistance training. But before we get into, why should we resistance train, a couple things that we will cover. What it is. What is resistance training? Why does it matter? Why should we do it? What's the point of it? Different types of resistance training that you can get into. A couple of key fundamental movements, some basics for forming and sticking to a program. And then I'll touch a little bit on nutrition and recovery, but I believe we've got our nutritionist that will get way more into that than I could. And then a couple of myths and some questions at the end. So before we get into why should we resistance train, we should get into what is resistance training. Resistance training is any exercise where your muscles are contracting against an external force, i.e. bodyweight squats, machine squats, resistance bands, anything that gives you some form of external resistance to your muscles. How do muscles grow? Obviously through tension. Any time under tension, anytime you put any pressure and you feel your muscles tighten up, you're building muscle, whether you're just sitting there holding the flex in the mirror, or whether you're actually curling, there's some muscle building going on there. Some metabolic stresses as well. Public speaking is my first event, and we'll kind of just going as we go. Metabolic stress is it's your calorie count, and a lot of people. No, that's not. I'm sorry. We'll skip over that for right now, and I'll come back to that in a moment. I'm sorry. We'll talk about the golden rule of resistance training, and it's to just gradually increase. And it's everyone comes to this gym with this big ego of I can lift this, I can do that, which is great to have, but also you got to know your limits. Things that we like to go over as we progress through lifting is form. Number one, key, fundamental. It doesn't matter if you can lift 10,000 pounds or 10 pounds. If you don't have good form, you run really high risk of injuries, pulling muscles, and just innately injuring yourself and taking yourself just out of everyday activities for elongated periods of time due to improper form. And from there, once you feel comfortable enough, start adding things. Start adding sets, start adding reps, start adding weights, and we'll cover more of how to build a proper progressive overload in the following slides coming up. And the 2 kind of common themes that get tied together are resistance training and cardio training. Because a lot of people just think working with bands versus going for a run, you're kind of doing it's low impact. Cardio is mainly heart focused, obviously, hence cardiovascular. Whereas you won't really gain a whole lot of muscle from doing things like that. You'll gain great heart health, great lung health, and overall your chances of heart and stroke diseases come down a lot with cardio training. But resistance training is more muscle focused, builds just healthy longevity. Makes it so that way you can wake up in the morning, your shoulders aren't sore, stuff like that. So now, why does resistance training matter? Resistance training matters, as I was just talking about, longevity. Strength training, at least twice a week, reduces all causes of base moralities by about 23%. That number kind of varies because there are variables that come in per person, per situation. But honestly, getting in, not even full sessions, but just a 30 minutes of activity, at least twice a week, you'll notice things start popping off for you. Each pound of muscle burns about 6 to 7 calories just at rest. So the more muscle, more calories we burn. It's kind of a catch-22. Yeah, right? Exactly. It's something to get pumped up about. Our bone density. I understand that for women specifically mainly, but osteoporosis is huge. As you guys start getting older, you guys' bone density starts fleeting on us. Resistance training actually helps reduce that by up to about 3.8%. So anything we can get, any little extra tools we can stick in our tool belt, the better. And mental health as well. You know, times in the world it's always so negative all the time. Every time you open up your social medias, go on the TV, whatever. Coming to workout, you can just lock into your own little zone and just tune all that out. And the only thing that matters now is, do I want to do 5 pounds or do I want to do 4 pounds? You know, and that's why we train. The different types of resistance training and finding out what works for you. So there are a couple of different things that you can do. Bands. I didn't include that. So bands, banded work, machine work. Body weight though. A lot of people get this notion that maybe I should lose a little bit of weight here, or maybe I should do a little bit of this there. You toss all that right out the window. The biggest fear that a lot of people have is the gym itself. You can do these right at home, right in the comfort of your own well-being. No one can look at you. That's the beauty of resistance training. Some fundamentals that I like to kind of just keep. Some planks, sit-ups, things for core. Core's super important. A lot of people that struggle with lower back pain, hate to be the guy that says it, but I'd like to believe that it also struggles and comes from a weak core as well. It doesn't necessarily mean your back muscles are weak. It's just because the way that your muscle compounds all interact with each other, it's probably a bit of a weak core. So if you can build that base first, then you'll notice your back pain will go away, and so on and so forth. It's like a building block of things that'll happen from core strength. Some lunges, some squats. All of these are really good motions. And then as you kind of find things like your push-ups and things of that nature, these are getting easy for me. There's always a progression that you can do, whether it be from just a body weight squat to a forward lunge, or get really crazy with it. You can do like a Bulgarian. There's always ways that you can progress from the basics, but fundamentals. Resistance bands and suspension training. So as I'm sure she'll show you when she takes you around, and you'll see whenever you guys walk around the gym, there's all these big rubber bands that look like timing belts for your vehicles. All of those have a purpose. They're all different strengths and different intensities to help, whether it be with rehab purposes to get back from an injury or to train in a safe manner. Bands are also usually pretty affordable and portable. You can get a bundle of them on Amazon for like $10, I think, and it'll give you every strength that you'll need from beginner to expert. They're also super nice because those people that, if you guys do a lot of traveling, you're like, how can I get a workout in? We'll just wrap those bands up, stick them in your suitcase, and away you go. You don't even need dumbbells. And then downstairs we do have what we call a TRX machine, as it kind of looks more like a suspension rope system. And that's all that is just a support for you and your body weight activities as well. Advantages to things like that is you have a little bit better stability with your form and your grip, as opposed to just free forming it here. You're kind of locked in to the suspension that you've got. Difficulty is always adjustable, because with that, it's not about how much weight you can do, it's about how much you can do. If you can only do 4 squats, perfect, that's great. You don't have to struggle with am I doing too little or too much weight? And then that just removes that variable from your overall game plan that a lot of people get kind of caught up in the wash, and then they end up preventing their progress as a whole, or just stops them from coming to the gym because they get too caught up in did I do enough? Am I not doing enough? What are other people doing? They're looking at me. Well, no, suspension training is great. It's just literally just you and your own body weight. Free weights, you guys will check as well, but free weights, dumbbells, kettlebells, we've got one right here. Just any weight that's not attached to a machine or tied down. Free weights are great. For working on stabilizing muscles, as well as like isometrics. So when you go down and you're doing big lifts, whether it be a big bench, a big squat, you're kind of tied together. Whereas with dumbbells, or even with the kettlebell, it's individual arm strength or leg strength or individual movements, so you can really pick apart where in your exercise you're going wrong, because I can shoulder press with both my arms. I know I can shoulder press a lot, but when I get to individuals, I can't lift that, so now I know where to work on. For my lifts going forward, we can pinpoint inadequacies to help us narrow down our problems. Machines are also really good, and especially for beginners or rehab purposes, because machines, they don't allow you to have improper form. Either you have the form to move it, for the most part. There's a few exceptions on the machines, but for the most part, they don't allow you to have bad form. It's safe. All the weights are on a nice stack. They're all adjustable in groups of, I believe, 5 to 10, so you can kind of really get a better gauge at how much weight you're lifting. And again, they're on a fixed movement path. So we have a Smith machine downstairs for squats. When people squat, a lot of times, they kind of squat down with like one side, and they kind of get all what have you. With the machine, you're locked. You're either lifting it or you're not, and you can't. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room, so it's really good for building confidence and form as well. Cons though, you can't really pick on isolation workouts to do, and it is a fixed range of motion. So if you got like a shoulder injury and like the first few inches there, it's really difficult for you to get it up. Well, with the machine, you're kind of locked there, whereas with free weights, you can kind of get your body situated in a way that it's pain-free, that you can still go through the exercise. There are 6 key fundamental movements when it comes to fitness and just training as a general: resistance training, strength training. These are kind of the key fundamentals. The squat pattern, it's more dominant more knee dominant, targets your glutes and your quads. For some reason, women love lower body and men hate lower body. I get it, but like, weird. So some examples of things that I enjoy doing for my squat patterns. Again, just body weight squats as is, nice shoulder width apart. Sit back, push down through your heels. Or a goblet squat with that. You could grab a kettlebell or a dumbbell, as long as you've got it up and high. And then same deal, nice wide base, squat down, and then push up through your heels. You want to push through the heels are important. Strictly because you have a little bit more. I know that demonstration wasn't that good because I was holding the door, but you got a lot more base and a lot more stability when you push through your heels than you do trying to push through the balls of your feet. Then you start getting into this weird kind of high dancing with the bar, and it just doesn't end well. Again, has a nice shoulder width. A lot of the problems that people have, because I've seen it, it's very prevalent, is people like to squat like this. I don't know how they do it. I don't know why they do it. It's just so uncomfortable, and it just calls for so much injury. So nice, everything that you ever want to do from the gym, unless it's designed. There is a version of a squat where you do squat close, but that's will be from that nice wide base. You're never want to be nice and close because there's no power. You can't really draw a whole lot of momentum from there. When you've got that big stance, whether it be a squat and then we're pushing up, or a deadlift and we're pushing up, you're always going to have more power from the elongated base. Talking about a deadlift, hinge pattern. Mainly just deadlifts. There are a couple like back extension exercises for that, but all it is, it's the same setup as your squat. So you have nice knees bent, shoulder width apart. Then you lock your hips in place. As for a squat, you go down, you lock your hips in place, and all you're doing is bending from the hips. It's working your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads, as well as bits and pieces of your lower back. Any push movements, any horizontal or away from your chest. The push movements usually typically work your upper body, so your chest, your shoulders, your triceps. Things like push-ups, bench presses, shoulder press. A lot of that's kind of in the name. And big keys for that, anytime you're doing any big pushes, nice tight core. Any and all power building will come from a nice stable core. And it's not just because I want to see people do sit-ups and we're going to have a really ripped class. No, your core is fundamental for balance as well. If you've got balance problems, that's probably due to core. But again, you just want to keep everything low, slow, and under control. There's nothing worse than doing heavy movements and you're getting all crazy, getting all wild, and then all of a sudden you blow out a shoulder or tear a pec muscle or something because you're acting a fool. Pull patterns. Typically working our backs, our biceps, and then like our rear delts. And what those typically look like tend to be either like pull-ups or seated rows or any of that, like any rowing movement essentially would be considered a pull pattern. And for those, a lot of people, when they do their pulls, they do really wide. They like to flail their base out. Keep your elbows nice and tucked. What I like to tell the kids that I train is elbows in your elbow pockets, like your gunslinger, getting ready to fire them out. So that way when you pull it tight, your shoulder blades are where they need to be, and your form is where they need to be, because your elbows are already tucked, as opposed to trying to kind of pull out here like awkward, and then you're left all sore and confused, and you're like, what did we do today? Lunge patterns. Lunge patterns are also very, I like to say they're important, because without our legs, we can't move, we can't do a whole lot. Leg strength is important, and honestly, it's lunge patterns, any elongated lunge movements. Keys for these ones. I see it happen a lot, and I'm notorious for it too. A lot of people will just kind of drop forward and into like a forward lunge. You want to keep that knee parallel. The rule of thumb that we usually typically like to keep is in line. You don't really want to go too far overhead. And then it's always the back knee that you guys drop down. Whereas a lot of people, like I said, will try to drop that front knee, and now you're leaning over. You're not really doing a whole lot there for yourself besides running the risk of an injury. Carry patterns are really good as well for forearm strength, grip strength, and just all around just being able to hold things in your day-to-day. Things that I would include are farmer's carry. So very nice, honestly straightforward. You would typically get 2 weights. You carry them just at your side. Nice big posture. It's not a race, low and slow. Take your time, keep your core tight. A suitcase carry would just be one, and you would just keep one hand up, walk to your destination, swap arm, or you can on your side. The up doesn't matter, and then you would just walk back, kind of like you're carrying a briefcase, like you're carrying a suitcase. Or an overhead carry, same deal. The only difference is just keep your elbows up, nice form, and you would just walk around there and back with weights in either. How to structure a program. I find that a lot of people also, when starting their gym journey, get thrown out. They kind of toss it out to the side and get thrown for a loop because there's a lot. The gym can be overwhelming. There's so many machines. There's so many equipment. There's so many people making weird grunt sounds that it gets easy to get caught up in the wash of what should I do and what shouldn't I do. So these are, again, just going to be very simple building block style guidelines that you can kind of go over when building a plan. When building a plan, you got to set some kind of goal as to what you're looking to do. Are you looking to get in beach shape? Are you looking to put on a little bit of size? Or are you looking to move mountains? If you're looking to move mountains, you're going to want to do something a little bit heavier for about 1 to 5. 1 to 5 reps that you know you're going to give 110% all 5 reps. And that over time, you'll see more muscle growth. Kind of like those big, strong Mr. Olympias look around, kind of looking like that. For your hypertrophy, that's honestly what most people come to do when you come just to look svelte. You come just to look good, come get the gym time in. You don't want to hit about 6 to 12 reps for that. I will press over. And now, again, so for endurance, you want to get you that beach bod. You want to get shredded down. You want to get slim. Anything super lightweight, lots of reps. You do 10 pounds for 100 of them. Will help burn all that down. after you've been doing that for a while, you go, gee, this is really easy. I'm kind of Superman or woman. How can I make this more difficult for myself? A few things that we like to do, starting first, is always add one more set. Before you add weight, before you add reps, before you add anything else, add one more set. Because if you can do bench press, let's do 3 sets of 6, or 3 sets of 10 is kind of the typical one that most people follow. Like, well, this is super easy. Well, then throw in the 4 set. You can only get to about 5 on that 4 set. Well, now you know that it's not the weight that was easy. It was just you weren't doing enough to get to that point. Now after you've added an extra set, you're like, okay, like this is still super easy. We'll add more reps. The way that I like to do it is I always like to tell people that I want you to get 10, aim for 12. Because if you can get to that 12 mark, then that means that we've noticed gains, we've noticed progressions. If you can't get to that 12 mark, that shows me one of two things. Either there's something that we can do to tweak your programming, or it shows me that we're exactly where we need to be, just based off form, and there's a couple of other variables as well. After you've hit that 1 to 2 extra rep added, then you go ahead, add extra weight, because now we're for sure like, okay, like the reps are easy, the weight's easy, like let's challenge ourselves. Add about 2.5 to 5 pounds. The machines are really nice for that because we have like a little rubber bumper plate of sorts that you can put right on top of it. And then the dumbbells and free weights and stuff like that all go up by 5 increments anyways. The 2 for 2 rule, if you can do 2 extra sets and 2 extra reps, add some weight. If you can, it's always a 2 by 2. And again, as I was kind of talking about earlier, as a beginner, I would recommend 3 sets, 8 to 12, rest about a minute in between. Focus on form over weight. Form will get you farther than weight will. A couple of examples of some training splits. People ask me, I can only work out 1 day a week, I can only work out 3 days a week. Should I do push-pull legs? How should I do full bodies? The best way that I like to describe it is if you can only come between, like 1 to 3 days that you can dedicate to fitness, do full bodies. You're going to have enough time in between each exercise that your rest will be fine, like your muscles will be a little bit sore, but they won't be over the top. And especially like if you can only dedicate however much time, there's no if only. If it's only 30 minutes, if it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, I'd still recommend full bodies so that way you're never missing something and nothing ever gets kind of tucked to the wayside. Whereas if you can do, say, 3 to 4 days a week, you could attempt to do something kind of more like an upper-lower split. So you could do like a chest day, a back day, an arm day, and you can kind of isolate more because you'll have that spread out, so your rest days will also equally be as spread out. But if you can come free reign whenever, I like to do push-pull legs. I find that if you alternate those 3, do push day, pull day, leg day, back to the beginning, push day, pull day, leg day, I find it works the best, but again, every workout program will be different based on people's body types and variability depending on muscle growth. Kind of a bit of an example for a 3-day split. For example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Come do full body day, rest. Come do another full body day, rest. Come do another full body day. Head into your weekend with 2 extra rest days, and away you go. But again, you can always tailor that. That's just a dummy mock-up. If you can only find time to schedule Tuesday, Thursday, perfect. There's no worries there. If it's 2 days right back to back, again, there's no worries because you'll have the adequate time in between to rest. Speaking about resting, nutrition recovery. Nutrition is equally just as important as weightlifting is, and same with the recovery process. I'm going to only touch on this a little bit because I believe Jen's going to go more into details with it. But when it comes to nutrition, the general rule of thumb is about 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I wrote up a couple of different examples there of things that I found that have are more prone to be higher in protein. When it comes to your macros and counting calories. I'm terrible at it, as an FYI. But when it comes to calories and macros, depending on your goals, the variables actually do matter. If you're trying to put on size and put on strength, you want to be in a calorie influx of about 200 to 500 more calories than your typical day to day. And then again, same thing on fat loss. You'd want to be about that same 200 to 500, but in a deficit as opposed to in a surplus. Pretty makes sense. Hydration is key. Hydration, I'd like to argue, is more important than the nutrition, just because you can't drive a car with no oil. Whenever you're producing force, whenever you're sweating, whenever you're working out, there's all sorts of chemical compounds and reactions that are going on in your body to help you break down muscle, break down proteins, synthesize those proteins, and as well as you're sweating out the weekend. But with that though comes a lot of water use, a lot of water use. So hydration is key. About 1.5 or about half the full ounce per pound is typically the measurements that we go with, or just 8 glasses of water essentially is kind of the same, about the same. When it comes time to actually, like, if you getting on an eating cycle, or to help make it so that way you don't feel super bloated or super sick while you work out, typically about 2 to 3 hours before you come to the gym, eat a nice calorie dense protein diet for you, or about a snack. About 30 minutes before you come, granola bars, banana, something light that has more nutrients. As post-workout, within 2 hours. Within 2 hours of your workout is when you should kind of look to have that post-workout meal, because that's like the opportune window where your body is looking for additional substances and nutrients to help with the protein synthesis, to help build the muscles that we just finished tearing apart. And then again, try to spread your protein intake across all your meals. Don't just sit down and have 2 steaks at dinner, because that does matter. Essentials when it comes to recovery. Rest days. Rest days are equally just as important as coming to the gym to train. Training is great. Training, we love it. But if you don't take the ample time and listen to your body to rest in between, you can cause all sorts of damage. You can tear muscles, you can break bones, just due to overtraining. Overtraining more so frequently over the last decade as opposed to before that, but it's starting to become prevalent more and more because everyone's always looking to, how can I do that much better? How can I be that much more optimal when I do my thing? Rest, big bro. And you'll notice too that if you don't take enough rest days, even throughout like your personal day-to-day, you'll be more tired, you'll be a little bit more on edge, you'll be a little bit more agitated because your body isn't getting the rest it needs. Light walking, yoga, things like that. If you don't want to come to the gym, you can't make it in, just go out and stretch. Just loosen up your muscles, be outside, touch grass, as we say. Sleep. Sleep is also a big one. I have a terrible sleep cycle, and I know that for a fact. But about 7 to 9 hours. If you can, it'll help with your muscle protein synthesis, as well as just being a happier person overall. Consistent schedule. That's the biggest one. Is just finding the time to sit down to plan your bedtime like you do your days. Me, I'll sit down, write a whole schedule for how my week's gonna look, but then I don't go to bed till whenever I feel tired. That's no bueno. So try to make sure you're at least getting to bed in and around same time every night. Not obviously you're not gonna fall asleep as soon as you hit the bed, but around the same time. And again, another good rule of thumb is no screens before, like an hour before bed, because the blue light wakes you up and it gets you going, and you never really hit REM sleep. And because you never hit REM sleep, you never get your full rest, and then it's just an unruly chain of unfortunate events from there. A couple of myths and some frequently asked questions that I got when I had said I was doing this. Number one is lifting makes women bulky. No, that is a myth. It doesn't make you bulky. You guys statistically don't have the same levels of testosterone as men do, so you'd have to come and work essentially twice as much to get about half the size. But with that though, women are more prone to being toned, getting that in shape kind of, that slim, that svelte, that slender look. You guys are more likely to get that than we are. So myth. Number two is you can spot reduce fat. False, you can't. No program, no nothing that you're ever gonna follow. Well, here's how to lose 10 pounds in 3 days. None of that you can't. Consistency is the best spot reducer. Just show up regularly, regularly, and that'll take care of itself for you. I'm sure you've heard this before. No pain, no gain. That is also a myth. If it hurts, stop. You shouldn't be doing. You should listen to your body. There is a difference between pain and discomfort. Lifting and resistance training, you're always going to be in a state of discomfort. It gets less, but it's always a constant state of discomfort. But when you go to move and you go, whoa, like that doesn't feel right, probably doesn't feel right for a reason. You need a gym. No, that's false. You just need a mindset and the willingness to do it. At home, there's with chairs. There's one girl that FaceTimes in sometimes. She uses wine bottles. She uses wine bottles as dumbbells because your typical 8-ounce wine bottle is about 2.5 pounds. For reference, so you can sit there and do your shoulder presses, do your bicep curls with bottles of wine. That's totally cool because you're still. And then as a treat, she has one after. So, yeah, right. So it's all about how you can have fun with it and tailor it to a way that makes sense for you without it being too overwhelming. I got a couple of other questions that I get is how long, number one question is, how long do I have to come before I see results? Is the one I get all the time. And typically, about 2 to 4 weeks is when you'll notice a strength difference. Before you see it, you'll go to close a door or start opening your own jars, you know? About 8 to 12 to see it visual with consistency. And that's where a lot of people chalk it up and they'll lose it, is because they see the strength. That's great, you notice that. But you're like, oh, like I've been working out every day, I've been doing what I need to do, and like I just don't see it. So like now, we'll save the money, we'll save on our time, we'll cut back. We lose people here because you got to get to that mark to be able to physically see it. Whereas a lot of people, me as well, we're innately, what's the word I'm looking for? Instant gratification. We're very, how can this benefit me now? The gym is one of the only things that it's going to be the long end. It's never going to be, how is it going to be now? It's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And if you can understand that concept, the sky's the limit when it comes to your own personal health and fitness. Should I lose weight first? No. There's no entry fee. There's no guideline. There's no minimum bar for how you should look, how you should feel, how you should move, how you should when it comes to personal fitness. A lot of what we're trying to do is show you that it's not necessarily the place in which you're working out, but it's what you're choosing to do with it. As I said, like at home, in the comfort of your own home, you can use a desk to do like push-ups. On a wall, you could do push-ups with wine bottles. There's tons of other variations to help take away from that stipulation of going to the gym or being in a group setting with people that they might look at me weird because I don't really know what I'm doing. It removes all of that. How do I know if I'm lifting the right way? If the last 2 to 3 reps of your set, like you can get it done, but you're pushing, you're really giving it all you've got, chances are you're at a good spot. If you're struggling to get to about a halfway point, so for example, 3 sets of 10, if you're struggling to get to 5, probably drop that weight down a little bit. But excuse me. But if you're flying through it and you're hitting 12, 15 easily, well then you know it's a little light for you. But anywhere where that last two, you're like, whoa, like I maybe could have done one more, but like we're just gonna call it there. It's a pretty good sign that you're using an ideal weight. Is it too late to start? That's the number one question, comment, concern that I've always gotten is, oh, I'd love to, but you know, I'm no spring chicken, or I'm, you know, back then I would have loved to. No, we have a gentleman who comes to one of our morning sessions. It's like 96 or something like that, and he's arguably one of the hardest workers in that room. So you're never too late to start. It's all just, it's a mindset thing, to be honest. And it's easy for me to just sit here and talk about your mindset. But that's the biggest deterrent that I find for a lot of people starting their gym journey is just the overwhelmingness of it all. With this, it hopefully should help take away some of the overwhelmingness as you're not locked to coming to the gym 3 days a week. You can kind of train wherever, whenever it suits best for you. Everyone started as a beginner. Any Mr. Olympias, any world strength champions, any Olympic powerlifters, they started somewhere. So don't let other people's accomplishments deter you from trying to achieve those same accomplishments. Any questions from you guys?
What do you find is the best way to keep track of your plans, your fitness plan?
Yeah. So me, that would kind of depend on like variably per person. What I mean by that is I take notes right on my phone. I'm really technologically savvy. I've built my own kind of Excel spreadsheet that I've put in, you know, day 1, day 2, day 3, and I just punch in my weights from there. But at the end of the day, I think the best way to keep track of your weights is essentially what works for you. I know there's tons of people that keep like a hard copy journal that they write, you know, write what they've eaten that day, that morning, and they keep it all written down so that way you can go day by day and see individually. I do know sometimes that depending on the gym and the trainer that you're, like if you have a trainer or what have you, a gym that you're with, that they will basically do that Excel sheet for you if you ask them to. But whatever you find is the best method in your world that will help you organize data the best is what I would recommend.
Good. Okay, let's switch it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys.